friend Christy, I love you. She taught me. She showed me with her baby Scarlett. They're here today. I have so many friends that came to visit from Texas, where we're from, and all over. And so she showed me how to take care of such a sweet baby. But nothing prepares you. Nothing prepares you for the love that you'll feel for that tiny, tiny baby. She was tiny. She looked like a porcelain doll. We would go places and they would just stop us. Oh my gosh, I thought that was a baby doll. She just looked like a porcelain doll. She was just perfect. And then as she grew older, we'd go to the park and people would just start following her around, these little kids. She'd have like a trail of them following her around the park or playground, always. So she connected with every kid she ever met. She was constantly just making friends. In fact, when she was 6, we were living in Virginia and we were preparing for our move to Connecticut. And she was in kindergarten. It was the middle of the school year. And so I asked her, I said, "Baby, are you going to be okay? Like, are you nervous about our move, about making friends?" And she looked at me and she said, "You just smile at someone and then boom, you're friends." Like it was just the most simplest thing in the whole world. I wish we all had that as an adult. And she did. She was charismatic. I can't name a person who had a hard time with her getting to know her. She just loved everyone instantly. As a teenager, it even seemed like her friends relied on her. Like, she's like the mom, she's very empathetic and kind and caring and would listen to you and be there for you. She wanted to help everyone. And, oh, Tegan, hush. So she just was always there for everyone. And, when we'd go somewhere with other little kids, she wanted to be like the mama. She would hold these babies and play with them, and toddlers, she loved them. And she just treated everyone like they were just her family. And she wasn't even the typical teenager that you see portrayed in movies and stuff. It's nothing like you hear, She was just kind. She never showed her anger, which, but she never in her whole life ever told me she hated me. Just so kind, and when I was upset, she'd be worried about me. Even in her struggles, if I was upset, she would, "You okay?" And she'd check on me. She always did her chores. She just a good kid. She watched her sister a lot. And she always told me she never had a problem with it. She loved her sister. They're sisters, they fight. But she loved her sister. It's evidence in all these pictures of them together that you'll see when you walk into the lobby. She wanted to be there for people in every aspect of her life, and she was empathetic and kind. I've never known another person as kind and gentle as Taylor. And, it's so hard to describe this whole human being that with this whole life and, looking at all of you have been in her life, and how do you describe this? But I hope I've done her justice. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of Taylor's life, for being a part of our life, and for loving my baby while she was here. We were all lucky and blessed to have known her, and we will all cherish these special memories that we have with her, and she will live on in us, in our hearts, in our memories. And I hope that one day we talk about Taylor and it's all smiles, that we just have those happy memories with her, because she deserves to live on that way. She did. All right. Thank you again for coming. I love you all. Oh, sorry. Deacon's got to talk. Okay, here. Here, I'll just hold you up.
No.
Oh, okay.
You hurt me with my nails.
Okay, well, I don't know how to do this. Here. Oh. Okay. Here, just talk. Oh, okay. I don't even. Miss Allison can help us. Sorry. Thank you. Come stand here so they can see you.
Okay. I'm Tegan Lloyd, Taylor's sister, 8 years old. Now I know there's lots of kids. Kids right there.
Here, I'll hold this for you.
No, none. Kids right there, kids right there, kids right there, kids right there, kids.
Okay. Do you want to say something about Taylor?
I know we all miss Taylor. And I remember one time that, when I remember that she used to play dolls with me when she was 10 and only 10. We were like best friends.
She was your first best friend.
Well, yeah. I remember that Taylor would always make me ramen and cereal, food. I remember that she loved to talk to Mommy
And Daddy.
and Daddy. And I remember she loved visiting other places, like when we went to on vacation. I remember when we went to a wax. I remember when we went to a wax museum. I remember that she met Taylor Swift as a wax figure.
That's a good memory.
She met Taylor Swift as the wax figure. I remember that she loved going to sleepovers. She would do all she could to go to a sleepover because she loved seeing her friends.
That's good.
I remember that Taylor, she would always love on our one cat Rex because he would walk through the door somehow and bust open and go to Taylor's room and love on Taylor. He loved Taylor so much. And it's real sad seeing how Rex doesn't have Taylor, because Taylor and Rex were like best friends too. And I remember whenever she wanted to snuggle with the cats and she didn't know where they were, I would help her find the cats, for then she can snuggle with the cats. I remember I would throw a tantrum in her room. Just make me ramen. Just make me cereal. I remember that she told us about her boyfriend, but she didn't even tell us the name or what it looks like. She didn't even want to tell us. I remember that Taylor enjoyed like playing with me and other kids. She loved playing with other kids. She loved holding babies. And I think the first time she held our neighbor's baby Gwendolyn or Gwen, I think she enjoyed it, all she liked. And I remember Taylor loving when I knocked on her door. I would be like Rex, just barge open. I remember Taylor loved to hug Mommy. I remember this one time where Taylor gave Daddy a hug for the first time, and she got stuck with a dad hugging her. She felt my torture when he hugged me. I remember Taylor loving to draw. She had beautiful artworks, and I have 2 artworks of her, one on the back and then one on the front of the piece of paper. I'm willing to take her art too, because she loved to draw. She loved making bracelets, and I got inspired, and I got a little rubber band bracelet kit. Just to,
Don't hold it so close to your mouth, baby.
I remember Taylor loved to do anything. Like, she would clean the bathroom tub when her hair was in it. I remember that Daddy would say mean things as a joke, like, I don't remember one, but I remember he loved to say them. And I remember tattletaling. I would say, you're going to get your TV taken away, or you're going to get your phone taken away, because you're starving me to death.
Okay.
Because I was hungry. Dramatic over hunger. Hunger is
All
the
right.
one time I get dramatic.
All right.
Hunger.
Why don't you start telling people what you wish for Taylor?
I wish it becomes a drawing that I sent her and I said, you look like this. It was beautiful but uglier. It was ugly.
Tegan.
But she's going to
Okay.
look like it.
Tegan, that's enough. Okay. Tell everyone that you miss Taylor and love her. Because you do, don't you?
And I remember Taylor sitting in her room when Daddy called her a vampire once. And he would always, like, scratch my back. Scratch my back. Scratch my back.
Finish it up.
Wrap it up.
And I remember Daddy liked to fight me, and I remember probably Taylor liked to fight him.
Okay. Tegan, that's enough, baby.
And I remember I beat somebody in here up with a shoe.
Tegan, that's enough. Sorry about that.
Follow.
Yeah. All right. Good luck following that.
This is a hard one to follow, but Tegan broke the ice here. I'm Cody. I'm Taylor's dad. I tried to write something down for this, but nothing was right. Taylor was such a great soul. I've loved her since day one, and Tiffany's probably right. I probably married her for Taylor. I love that kid to death. I always remember playing with her before Tegan was born. We always had this inside joke with me and Tiffany because I walked in one day and Taylor's playing with her dolls, and I sat down and played dolls with her. And she said, "Sorry, sir, no triangles." And that has been our inside joke for probably the best of 7, 8 years now. This is really hard for me to do, but I'm glad I had Taylor in my life. She's one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I love and I miss her. And she's in God's hands now.
Take a deep breath.
Hello. I'm Kaylee. I'm one of Tiffany's coworkers and one of her best friends. I spent a lot of time with Taylor. I love her very much. No, I'm good. I wrote something to say today. How sweet it is to have something so very special that makes saying goodbye so hard. I know none of us expected to be here today, saying our goodbyes to Taylor and celebrating her life that ended far too soon. But we can all take a look around this room, though, and see just how much of an impact she's made on all of us, and how many hearts she's touched. Even though Taylor and I have never held too many long conversations, I will forever cherish the little ones that we did have, always. Taylor's forever left a mark on my heart, and she took a piece of mine with her when she left this world. Her quiet but sweet personality is unforgettable. And she may not have been so outward with her emotions, but if she loved you, she made sure that you knew, and you knew that you were a lucky person to be loved by such a sweet and caring soul. I know I sure feel lucky to be loved by her. I have so many memories to hold in my heart for the rest of my days of time spent with her and Tegan and Tiffany. Ones that I'll cherish forever. Lots of Target trips, because we all know Tiffany loves Target. So did Taylor, though, and Tegan does too, and I'm guilty of that as well. Breakfast dates at Cracker Barrel. The ever-favorite Whataburger outings. We've had so many of those. San Jose Grill for Mexicans sometimes, but our most favorite was our time spent at Longhorn, because we definitely ate there a lot. Taylor loved being surrounded by her mom's coworkers, eating her favorites like the chicken tenders or the chicken Caesar salad and her sweet tea. Those were her usuals. Longhorn was just somewhere that she loved being, and she was comfortable there, and she loved everyone there. And I know she's smiling down on each and every one of us today, seeing all the people she loved most coming together just for her. Let's not think of saying goodbye today, though, but of how we can move forward and honor her life. Love harder, hug your loved ones a little extra and a little tighter. Life is such a precious thing. Always be kind to others. It's already been said, but if any of you know anyone who's struggling, be there for them, help them whenever you can. And if any of you in this room are struggling, please reach out to anybody. Whether it be a shoulder to lean on or a listening ear, a little bit of hope goes a long way. Remind your loved ones that they're more than enough and that they're loved as much as you possibly can, because you never know when the last time will be that you'll get to tell them that. But when you do it, remember Taylor.
I met Taylor when we moved to Connecticut, 2014, 2013. She was definitely her mama's twin when it came to her personality and her giving nature. And she definitely inherited Cody's sarcasticness and dry humor. She was the mother figure of our kids group. She made sure that they stayed in line and made sure that everything was neat and clean when everyone was done playing, especially when all of the kids tore it up. Their family became our family as soon as we met them. Any holiday, any event, we spent it together. And I guess that was the great part of the military. Family became family even if we weren't born into it. She was a Potterhead. She loved her animals, and the kid loved to eat. Our favorite memory was when we came and visited, and me and her went to McDonald's and Taco Bell and ordered 15 cheeseburgers and 24 tacos because everybody was supposed to eat them, and no one did. And me and her sat there and ate them until we got sick. And we laughed for hours at this kitchen table. And I think we sat there for hours just laughing and cutting up, catching up that night. And we'll never forget that laughter. She's not in pain anymore. She's with her grandfather. She'll show up in little ways over the years. And we'll keep her memory alive. thankful. And we love you.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm Tiffany's friend. I'm so heartbroken right now with Taylor's passing. She was my daughter Scarlett's first best friend. I remember being with Tiffany throughout her pregnancy, watching Taylor grow inside of her, driving to the hospital to see her when she was born. Her and Scarlett, they were little Binky bandits, always hiding them for each other, especially with that one. I'm devastated by this. But thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of her life. I was the one who watched Taylor while Tiffany ran away and eloped with Cody. Thank you so much for trusting me with your baby. I'll always love her and your family. And I hope she's at peace now.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm one of Tiffany's friends. I've known Taylor for almost 4 years now, and she's always been like another daughter to me. I love her so much. I'm gonna miss her. I remember every day after school when I'm waiting for my kids, Taylor would come and find me and just talk about any random thing that she could think of. And then there was one day that I wasn't there when she got there, and she told me the next day that the entire time while waiting for Tegan to come outside, she looked everywhere for me. And I was so sad when she told me that I made sure I was in that exact spot every day that week. She loved my kids so much. And you could tell every time she saw them just how much she really cared for them. And she especially loved my cats. I remember my daughter Cordelia's birthday party one year. Taylor just stayed in the house and went and searched for every cat she could find, because I had 3 at the time, and pet every single cat the entire time. And then the last time I saw her was actually Friday night after the open house for school. I was walking up to the checkouts of Target when I suddenly got a picture on my phone of Taylor posing next to my car in the parking lot. And right after that, I looked up and saw them walk in the door. So I followed them all the way back to the school supplies and helped them shop. I didn't know why, but I just had a feeling I needed to be there and help them shop. Taylor was walking around with my 5-year-old Cordelia, just holding her hand the entire time. Cordelia was like the happiest I've seen her in a while, just going around with Taylor, looking up at her, smiling. And while we were shopping, Taylor just leaned over and hugged me and told me she was doing much better. So I'm so happy I decided to stay so I could get that one last hug. She's seriously an amazing young woman, and I'm so honored and privileged to have been able to know her and to love her like family, because she is family. Your whole family is really my family now, and I'm really gonna miss her.
It's never easy to stand in front of a group of people who are hurting. As a pastor, as a person, as a mom, as a member of a family, it's never easy to stand in front of a group of people who are hurting and try to give some semblance of hope and some semblance of encouragement. But I would like to try to do that today, if that's okay with you. Like I said, my name's Allison. I'm one of the pastors on staff here. But the most important part about my job is that for the majority of it, I was the student pastor here. I ministered to teenagers. I tried to encourage teenagers. I try to give teenagers a reason to believe in something bigger than themselves. And that was my job around here, was really to invest in teenagers in our community. And so to know that there's another life just taken way too soon is gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching as a person. It's gut-wrenching as a mom. It's gut-wrenching as somebody who loves teenagers. And so this is never an easy conversation. It's never an easy conversation. So bravo to you parents who are sitting with your teenagers today and helping them walk through this really difficult part of life. Bravo to you for sitting next to your teenager and having some of the toughest conversations that you can have. And I want to encourage you that this church is for you. We're with teenagers, and we're for teenagers. And Taylor's family comes to our church, and so it's an honor and it's a privilege to know them and just to be able to stand before you today and maybe give you a little bit of encouragement as we celebrate the life of Taylor Iris Franklin. And so, and every one of us here today is here because we have some kind of a Taylor story, a reason for wanting to celebrate her life today. And maybe you're a friend from school or a teacher who has poured into her educationally. Maybe you're a member of her family. Maybe you're a friend of the family. Maybe you are somebody who is here just to support and encourage the family, or maybe you are somebody who loved Taylor deeply. I want you to know today that our church's deepest sympathies are with you, and that we are so sorry for the loss that you're experiencing today. Part of my Taylor story is that I met her down the hall here at the church, and we do something at our church called 10 After, where we gather after our service, and in less than 10 minutes, we're going to tell you about our church. And Taylor did not want to be there. She looked miserable. She did not want to be standing there talking to anybody. But we actually bonded over our names. And so my middle name is Taylor, and her first name was Taylor. And so we bonded over our names. And it's something so simple where you just make a connection. And I think Taylor was pretty good at that. I think she was good at making connections with people easily. And that's evident by how many of you are sitting in this room. It's evident by the way that she impacted people, that it was easy for her to make a connection. And we made a connection over something very simple as having a name in common. And maybe you made a connection with her because of who she was, maybe because of her family, maybe because she was in the band with you, or you were just friends from school. But I want you to know that your connection to her, it mattered. It mattered. Your friendship, your relationship, how you knew her, and the experience that you guys had together, it matters. And connection matters, especially when it comes to teenagers. When you have common ground with a teenager, you get to have influence over them. You get to speak into their life. You get to speak encouragement into their life. And so when you have a connection with a teenager, well, it just matters. Unfortunately, the path that Taylor was on was a difficult one, especially for somebody so young. She was literally fighting for her mental health every single day. And in the end, she lost her fight with depression. But boy, was she fighting. And boy, were you guys fighting for her. And I want you to know that today, that I know that you were fighting for her. I know that you were. I believe that with all my heart. And I know that today it would be really easy to sit here and as people who love Taylor and maybe be angry. I know that it would be easy to sit here today as somebody who loved Taylor and question what you could have done differently. It would be easy to ask yourself maybe, man, what did you miss? What you're replaying conversations in your head where maybe you could have stepped in and done something differently. And I want you to know today, and I hope you will hear me clearly, there's nobody to blame here. There's nobody to blame here. There's no guilt to be passed around here. There's no shame to be passed around here. There's absolutely nothing that you could have done. There's nothing that you could have done. And I want you to hear me say that clearly today. Depression is a devastating mental illness. Whether you're young or whether you're old, it's devastating to the person fighting through it. It's devastating for those that are surrounded by it. And it's an illness unlike any other. But for some reason, we don't treat it like another illness. We don't treat it like a heart attack. We don't treat it like high blood pressure. We don't treat it like a broken bone. Because see, there's a stigma that's attached to depression. There's a stigma that's attached to mental health. And if we as people were better at fighting against mental health and supporting people, the same way we fight for people's physical health, if we would also fight for their mental health, can you imagine the difference it would make in our country? Can you imagine the difference it would make in your circles of friends? If we were free enough to share about our mental health as we are our physical health. If we felt that kind of freedom, can you imagine how different our lives may be? It's an illness unlike any other, but we don't treat it that way. And when we talk about mental health, we tend to lean towards it being a choice to just feel better. Maybe because unlike other diseases, it does have a lot to do with how you feel in that moment. But the problem with our feelings is that they can tend to lie to us. And I believe with all my heart that day Taylor's feelings lied to her. Her feelings lied to her that day. Whatever she was feeling and experiencing, it felt like too much on that day. But even with that choice and what she was experiencing in that moment, that it felt like too much, that choice, that's not the life that Taylor planned for herself. It's not. It's not the life that she planned for herself. I'm sure it's not where she imagined things going, and I'm sure it's not the life that you intended for her. Depression is a devastating illness. No one plans for it to be so hard. No one ever set out to live that kind of life. No one intended for it to be that difficult. But you'd never look at a cancer patient and wonder how they got there. You'd never blame them for being sick or judge them when they just had enough. You'd never get together with your friends and say they just aren't trying hard enough and why don't they just feel better? You'd step into the mess and say and do whatever you needed to do to get better. And listen, some of you did. Some of you fought like crazy for Taylor. Some of you fought like crazy with Taylor for her mental health. And for you, today is probably pretty frustrating, if I had to guess. Today is probably pretty overwhelming. And you're asking yourself again, how could you have missed this? A couple of years ago, we lost another teenager in our community to suicide, and it was one that I knew really well. It was one that I had invested in. It was one I had cared about. And as her youth pastor, somebody who should have been able to help, somebody who should have been able to stand in that gap and fight for her, after she took her life, I remember asking myself, what did I miss? And I spent an entire year just absolutely blaming myself and going back over and going, what did I miss? What conversations did I not hear? What could I have done differently? Could I stepped into this? Could I shown up at this? And it was actually her mom that sat me down and had a conversation with me one day and said, you didn't know. You didn't know. And had you known, you would have done something. And that for me was like something inside my heart just kind of burst open because I was like, I didn't know. And you didn't know. You didn't know. And if you had known, you would have done something. And so I hope that you take some solace in that today, that had you known, you would have done something. And you cannot be held responsible for information that you didn't have. You can't be responsible for the emotional and mental health of somebody else that you didn't know about. And of course, if you had known on that day that she would make that choice, of course you would have stepped in and done whatever it took. Of course you would have. So those that are in the room that are friends, that are family, that are educators,